Hi everyone and welcome to this video. My name's Danny and today I'm going to teach you how to do some gospel improv and how to branch out into gospel if you're wanting to just look at some starting tips, some of the more basic things of how to get into gospel piano. So just before we start, I just want to say a couple things. That this lesson is for probably intermediate or above type of player. So if you're intermediate, advanced, expert, whatever, then this video is for you. If you're a beginner or an amateur, then this video is going to be really hard to follow, but you are so welcome to watch anyway. I just want to let you know that before we keep going. So that's that. And if you are looking for an online piano course, then I would encourage you to check out the link in the description below this video. I have a great online course for you if that's what you're looking for, so please feel free to check that out. All right, so let's go ahead and get right into it. I am going to teach you 3 things today to jumpstart your gospel piano playing if that's what you're looking to do. Now, there's a lot of different styles to gospel, and so I'm kind of trying to give you some flavors of kind of all of them. There's kind of like the old school gospel, and then there's like more modern, new kind of really jazzy sounding gospel, if that makes sense. So I'm just gonna try to give you like kind of a little bit of it all. So first thing I'm gonna teach you is how to use scales for improv. So how to kind of branch out of just the diatonic major scale. If you're in the key of C, getting out of just that. And then the second thing I'm going to teach you is a great chord progression called the 3/6. It's the most classic gospel progression that there is. You'll recognize it when you hear it. And then the third one is I'm going to teach you another chord. It's kind of a chord progression, but it's just a chord that you can do, and it sounds really nice. It gives it a really cool feel, like emotional, and it's a great thing to use to really add some gospel flavor to any song that you're playing. So here we go. Let's start with some scale improv. All right, so I'm gonna be teaching this lesson at a slightly faster pace than I normally do, especially for the beginner or amateur lessons. So I hope that you can keep up. And if you have questions, just let me know in the comments below. I'll be so happy to hear from you and help you. Now, if we're in the key of C, here's our C scale. I'm assuming you know that scale. You can play it easily, flawlessly, whatever. All right, so if we were in the key of C and we want to do some just some improv, then you can do some great sounding stuff just sticking with the 7 notes of the scale. You can go. Whatever. But there's a couple things that you can do if you want to go outside of that and use some of the black keys if we're in the key of C, or just some of the accidentals, if you want to call it that, the proper name for it. So here we go. Let's get into that now. A great scale for gospel, if you want to just take the major key and go outside of it a little bit, is the major blues scale. That's what I call it anyway. I think most people call it that. So here is what the major blues scale looks like in the key of C. So we have C, R1, D, R2, and then we're going to play the flat 3, E flat, and then go to E. We're going to skip over to G, 5, A, which is 6, and then back to 1. So let me just play that for you up and down one time through. That's our scale that we're going to be looking at. I would definitely encourage you to just go through that scale in all 12 keys and make sure you got it down nice and solid under your fingers. Because sometimes you might want to play it fast. So anyway, so if we're in the key of C and we're just playing around, that's just a basic example of what you can do using those notes that are in that scale. So like, that's just a scale that you can feel free to just go all over the place. Just depending on how advanced or cool sounding you want it to be. You can. So that scale is a good starting point. Learn that scale and just get well acquainted with it. And then another thing that you can do after you learn that scale is in any key that you're in. We'll just stick with C for now. So we have our scale. When you get to the 5, another note you can often throw in is the flat 6 or the sharp 5, whatever you want to call it. I like to call it just the flat 6. So you can throw that note in a lot. So I'll just hit a C chord with the left hand. And check this out. Here's a great riff. So you see what I did there? I hit the 1, which is C, and then I hit this flat 6 and slide up to the 6. I just use one finger for that. Sometimes it's easy just to hit it and like just slide up with your finger, but you can do that as well if you want. It doesn't matter too much, just as long as you know what notes you're playing. So, and then if you want a nice little takeaway riff here, then you can play this, and then come down to the flat 3, which is E flat, and then go. So it sounds like this altogether. Now let me slow it down for you. All right, so there is a riff that you can practice in all 12 keys, but you can use the blues scale and also this note as well. So just go all over the place with the scale, experiment with what sounds good, and just see what you can find. There are so many things. And a way that I like to think of these 2 notes right here are 2 black keys when it comes to the scale that we're in. And the key that we're in is, I call them slippery notes, because they're outside of the key, so you don't want to hang out on them for too long. Do not use these as like ending points, if you want to put it that way. So you probably shouldn't go like this. Do you hear how bad that sounds? And that's because we're on a C major chord. We have this E natural in the left hand here. So if I take that down here, then it's not a great interval in when you're trying to improvise. So these are slippery notes. They should lead you either up or down. So you can go. I hope that makes sense. They're slippery notes. It's not meant for you to hang out on them, but they make great passing tones. All right, so there you go. That should definitely open up a ton of new possibilities for you in your playing. So just make sure that you practice this blues scale in all 12 keys, or especially whatever key you're playing a song in. If you're playing a song in the key of A, for example, playing a song in A, then just play through that scale in the key of A. We have 1, 2, flat 3, 3, 5, 6, 1. And then you can also, of course, feel free to practice it with the flat 6 in there as well. So you can practice it like this. almost sounds nice just to play the scale by itself, right? But just make sure that if you're improvising, you're not just running through the scale. You practice it so that you get to know it, and then you use that as your springboard to play other things. Don't always just start on the one. You know, you can go. You can do whatever. There's so many things you can do with it. All right, so there is that. That is the great scale to use. It will make your gospel playing sound awesome, especially if you're just sticking, you know, if you're used to just playing in like the diatonic major. All right, so there's point one. Use that scale, enjoy it, have fun with it, and see what you can do with it. Now, the second point that we're going to go through today is the 3/6 progression. Now, the 3/6 progression sounds like this. If we are in the key of C, let me just kind of play it through for you. Most people play like the 5 chord right before they play a 3/6, and here's what that sounds like. So we have 1, and then 5, and then 3, 6. Let me play it one more time just so you can hear it. All right, and that's the sound of that. It is a classic gospel progression. I'm sure that you've heard it. And most people, if you haven't studied much music theory, then it's hard to understand. They might not know what it is. A lot of people think after we go from the 5 in the key of C is a G chord. When we hit this chord, they think it's a diminished chord because a lot of people play this diminished chord with the right hand. It's not technically a diminished chord. There's so many different things you can play, but the diminished chord sounds great. It has that classic sound that brings you, you know, to here as well. But what this progression is a 3/6. And what that means is that in the key of C, we have 1, 2, 3. So we are going from a dominant 3 chord to the 6, right? 3, 4, 5, 6. This just happens to be kind of a rootless voicing. We're playing the root of the 3 chord right here. But on the bottom of this chord, we have this here, this A flat. And then we go to the 6. So if we were to play the same thing in the right hand, this diminished chord, which is B, D, F, A flat, but we just play the root on the bottom. Do you hear how that resolves in that way? So we have the 3, 3 to the 6. So that's all we're doing. So that means there are so many things you can do with that. But let me teach you that basic one, which is, it's classic. It's a little more old school sounding than some of the other things that you can do, which maybe I'll teach in other lessons, especially if you let me know in the comment section. I can do a whole lesson about different 3/6 voicings that you can do. But let me show you just this classic one real quick. So, and this one is just great to use. You should not use it all the time, but if you want to, just throw it in sometimes. All right, now if we're on the 5 chord, which is G, this is what I'm playing, G, D, G with the left hand, and then B, D, G with the right hand. This is where we're at. And then what we're gonna do with the left hand is we're just gonna make a slight move up here like this. And so we're gonna play A flat with the pinky, E, A flat, those 3 notes, and those interval numbers are the flat 6, the 3, and the flat 6. And then with the right hand, what we're gonna play over that right there is a diminished chord, which is, in this case, in the key of C, it's gonna be B, D, F, A flat. So altogether, that looks and sounds like this. All right, so what we do again is we come from here, and then we play this, what I just showed you, our E7 chord. And then from there, we are going to want to just shift up into the A minor chord. And this chord, there's so many different ways you can do this. This sounds also kind of like a little bit plain or maybe old school, but that's okay, it doesn't matter, it still sounds nice. So for this chord, if you want to play it like this, then what I'm doing here is with the left hand, A, E, A, those three notes. And with the right hand, I am playing C, E, A. There's so many things you can do here. You can add the 2 in. You could also switch the left hand thumb and move this up to B. Gives it a little more of a crunchy, dissonant sound. That's also really nice right there. You have those 4 notes in a row. All right, so there's just some ideas, but that is how that chord progression works. And so you're going to want to also practice this one in every key, or at least the key that you are going to play a song in. And so this one is a bit complicated. So just remember that this transition chord is going to be in the left hand, flat 6, 3, flat 6. And then with the right hand, you can think of it as a diminished chord that is just below the root of our home key. This is a B diminished chord, and B is a half step below the key that we're in. That's how I like to think of it. I think that's the easiest way to remember this. Whatever key you're in, we're in the key of C, just go a half step below and play the diminished chord. Okay, so there's the 3/6. Now we have our third one and our last one, and this one has such a cool sound that is also quite common, but not as common as the 3/6. And this one is going to be the flat 7 dominant chord. And I also played this one in the intro as well. I think I played a little bit of all these techniques in that little intro that I did. So here is the flat 7 dominant chord. So if we're in the key of C, what's our flat 7? That's going to be B flat. If this is our 1 and this is our 7, then our flat 7 is B flat. The natural 7 is B, the flat 7 is B flat, right? So we take that chord and we make it a dominant chord, which is in its root position, left hand looks like this. That's B flat, D, F, A flat. So we play this dominant chord with the left hand, but what I like to do, because it sounds a little bit thick and muddy once you get further down, is I take off the 3 in the left hand. So I play B flat, F, A flat. So those 3 notes. And interval numbers, that's 1, and then 5, and then 7, the flat 7, of course. Okay, and with the right hand, here is what makes this chord, I think, sound really nice. So with the left hand, all you're doing is hitting these 3 notes, but the right hand makes it sound really juicy. So what my favorite way to voice this chord for the right hand is to just do simply a 1 chord in the key that we're in, which is C, of course. So just play a C chord and listen to how beautiful this sounds. Oh, I love the sound of that. That is the technical name of that chord is a B flat 7 sharp 11 chord, because in the key of B flat, this is our 4 or 11, and we're making that sharp. If you don't understand that, don't worry about it. So that is the chord that we're playing. So with the left hand, again, we have B flat, F, A flat, and with the right hand, we just have a C major triad, which is C, E, G. And there is a scale that goes with this as well. That's really important, that I improvised in the beginning as well. Now that scale is as follows. If we were to look at the key that we're in, C major, there's different ways to think about this scale, but this is the easiest way, is to think of the key that you are in. I don't like to try to switch around what key I'm thinking in so much. So I think of it in the key of C, and if we take our major scale, then what we do is we take the 6 and the 7 and we flat them. So what the scale looks like now is this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. So let me just play through that scale for you. There you go. This is a wonderful scale. It just sounds so beautiful. And so that is how it goes. Practice this scale in all 12 keys. It is so good. And there's so many things you can do with this one also. And both hands together sounds like this. So if you take that and you put a B flat 7 on the bottom, listen to how awesome that sounds. So that is what I did in the beginning. I think I did something like this. I hit the chord and then I came up here and I did an F shape and a little kind of slip right there like that. And then I just ran down the scale. And then back to a C chord. So this flat 7 will take you right back to the 1. It's kind of a substitute for the 5. It's a very jazzy substitute for the 5, if you want to put it that way. So if you have the 5 to the 1, then instead you could do the flat 7 to the 1. So if you were playing like the song "How Great Is Our God," for example, then what you could do is, you know, you have "How great is our God, sing with me, how great is our God, and all will see how great is our God." Oh, doesn't that just give such a nice sound right there? So actually what I did there was, instead of going back to the 1, I went to the flat 7. And if I just sing the 1 like I did, "Is our God," then it sounds really nice. But what you need to do is, of course, go back to the 1 and resolve it. So there you go. That's how that works. So if we were to take another key, let's just go back to the key of A, for example. So if we're just playing around a bit, then we can do something like this. All right, so you see what I did there is I just played a 1 chord to a 4 chord, a 5, and then I went to that flat 7, which is the flat 7 in the key of A is G, because here's our natural 7. So we flat that and go to G, make that a dominant chord, and then play a 1 chord with the right hand. And then use that scale, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1 in the key of A. All right, friends, and there you go. There are some great tips for at least starting out in gospel and giving you some ideas for improvisation and some great things to do with chords to really spice up your playing and make a song sound awesome. So I hope this lesson helped you out greatly, and I hope you have so much fun practicing these things and using them in your playing. So thank you so much for watching.